Hi, this is Andrew Twidwell, owner of ABT Plumbing, Electric Heat and Air. Once again with the show You Got This. It's a show of DIY do's and don'ts. And I am sitting in my guest room working out of the house today. And I've got Rosalie Brown, our producer, sitting in her apartment as well. So we're homebound today. The luxury of the internet, right? You can actually work from home. It's kind of nice. I didn't have to go in the office today. So why go in if I don't have to? Save me an extra hour round trip.
There you go.
Yeah. So how's it going? We didn't even talk about what we were going to talk about for our banter. No, it's been kind of a wonky couple weeks, but
I had a rough start to the week because I was flying high first half of the Detroit Lions game on Sunday. And then there was a fourth and third.
Hopefully at halftime they'll get some. Shanahan will give them some good information and get them dialed in and figure out what the heck they're doing.
Well, I think if Campbell would have actually let them do the 4th and 3, if they would have got on the third yard line, if they would have been able to actually do a field goal, we would have really came out a little bit stronger, but the Lions tried.
Yeah.
Lion pride. I'm just sad. And I will not be voting. I will not be rooting for San Francisco on February 11th. That's all I'm going to say. I'm going to be rooting for the Chiefs.
Come on.
I'm going to be a temporary Swiftie, which will cause my nieces much joy. I'll be a Swiftie for the day.
We have been with the whole Kelsey Taylor thing going on. We've become Chiefs fans because my wife and my daughter are hardcore Swifties. I mean, they've been going to Taylor Swift shows since she first started touring. I mean, she opened for the Cheetah Girls, and they actually saw her at that show. However many decades ago. Well, it's only a decade ago, but anyway, a long time ago. And this last tour, they went to both shows in Santa Clara. So yeah, they're hardcore. So yeah, we've been watching a lot of the Chiefs. And so now we got the Chiefs and the 49ers, and we've been watching the 49ers too. So both our teams are going to the Super Bowl. So it's kind of wild. Yeah.
Well, so my niece, born and raised in Detroit, now lives in Kansas City. Huge Swiftie. So the one consolation thought I had was her day just got easier in some ways, because how is she going to root for the Lions or the Chiefs? So now I think she's dialed in. So the Lions. Yeah. Oh, well. Okay. So yeah, I had a rough weekend, but other than that,
wasn't it? I mean, oh my gosh. I mean, and so was the Kansas City and Ravens. That was a great game as well. It was good on both of them. So that was fun weekend.
So we got a week or two to recover and get our head right. And besides the Super Bowl,
I did feel a little guilty though, because it was gorgeous that day. And here I was sitting inside watching 2 football games instead of being outside with the sun and enjoying the weather. But oh well.
Well, the sun will come up tomorrow. The Lions don't get to play many NFC games, so I mean, the sun comes out the next day. Okay.
They kept saying those stats like they always do. Like, it's 1956, the last time they were at a playoff game, and it was against the 49ers at Kezar Stadium. Can you imagine? I mean, Kezar Stadium. I know. My parents, my dad grew up here, but he wasn't a football guy. But my wife's parents were both hardcore sports fans, and both of them went to Kezar multiple times to watch the Seals and watch the 49ers. So, yeah.
Well, in my defense, growing up, we had Raiders back when they were an Oakland team. We had Oakland Raiders season tickets. So we grew up hating the 49ers because we were this team and they were across the bay. Yeah. Now I have no allegiance to the Oakland Raiders or whatever city they're in now. I have no allegiance to them, but I still have the bad taste of 49ers in my mouth. So go Chiefs. We'll see how that works out.
Yeah. Good times. All right. So let's get to the show thing. So we didn't
Okay.
finish our list of DIY do's and don'ts. I mean, it's literally a DIY do and don't kind of list of things that should I hire a pro or should I give it a shot myself? And for those longtime listeners, I'm usually the one that says, if you've got some skills, go for it. If it's not dangerous, and I want to really preface it, this is for entertainment value. The show is for entertainment. So, if you do this stuff, you're taking the risk on yourself. So if you do any of these things, you hopefully know that you're going to be safe, especially when it comes to electrical, because we got a couple of electrical questions here. But normally speaking, you can do a lot and not, I will say most of the time, give it a shot, and we can come in. If you can't fix it, we can come and fix it. Sometimes it's going to cost you a little bit more, but because you may have damaged things so much that we have to replace them. But generally speaking, it's typically not going to cost you more to try it yourself, unless you do some major damage like flooding the house or electrocuting yourself. Those are kind of bad. But so or die from asphyxiation from carbon monoxide from burning fuels. But those things, those are the caveats, right? So you really have to have a good handle of safety on this stuff, and we want to make sure that you guys are safe. But yeah, let's give this a shot. Let's dive into this. I don't need to give any more, CYA stuff.
Okay. So what? So would you say hire a pro or DIY if the issue was sealing leaky pipes?
Sealing a leaky pipe. So that's kind of a generic question. So there's going to be a couple things. So like if it's a P trap underneath the sink, it may just be a loose slip joint nut. And most of the P traps that we put in these days are slip joint, and they have the nuts that we use have little thumb, I guess, ridges. So we typically just tighten those up by hand. So it may just be a matter of tightening that thing up with your hand, and you can actually fix that pretty easy. If it's a supply issue from like the emergency shutoff valve or angle stop, which is on the wall, to the fixture itself, that's a relatively easy thing. Turn the water off, go buy a new supply tube and put it in. Don't try tightening those. If it's leaking, they're $10. You're gonna by tightening it and maybe not fixing the leak, there's the potential for it to leak again and do some damage. One thing that you on those two items that I've used for decades for diagnosing and making sure I fixed said leak is once I've tightened everything up, I'll take a piece of toilet paper or a couple pieces of toilet paper and put it directly underneath those fixtures. And that gives me a visual representation if I've got a drip, because sometimes the drips are so small you can't see it on the surface, but a piece of toilet paper, you'll see a dot. So that's a good way to figure that out. If it's more like a sewer leak, those are, if it's a ABS, you might be able to fix it. But again, that's kind of one of those, level 7 in a 1 to 10 kind of level. Or if it's a water pipe, if it's copper or PEX, that's kind of a 7. There are some ways you can kind of temporarily fix. There's like silicone tape that stretches, and you can actually seal a pipe temporarily. I would not say that's going to fix it, but it will at least, kind of triage. It'll stop the bleeding until you actually repair it. There are also these fittings called shark bite fittings that fit over copper and CPVC and PEX, and they're just a push fitting. I personally, and as a rule in our company, we try to avoid those whenever possible. So occasionally we'll use them when nothing else will work. But I would never bury one of those fittings, because we have seen quite a few failures from those fittings. They are one of those things too that, the majority of times that we've seen failures, it was installation issues. But if you've never used one before, there's a good chance you're not going to install it correctly. So at least if you are going to use a shark bite fitting, watch a video on how to, properly do a square cut with a tubing cutter, and making sure there's no burrs that can cut the O-ring, and making sure you fully depress it, those sort of things. Those are some kind of key things. So long story short, I would probably try it. But again,
Okay.
I've been doing this for 40 years. So I'm willing to take risks. But I've talked to
Doing
friends
it,
like that.
doing it
What?
for 40 years, doing it well for the last 10, right?
Right. Well, no, actually, I do it worse over the last 10. Like people ask me
Well,
questions now, and like
I
I
didn't want
know,
to say that, but
know less now than I did when I was actually in the field. So yeah.
that's I relate. I feel that. I feel that.
Yeah.
Okay, what if it was? And I've seen people do this, and I've seen people do this in a record amount of time. So I always feel like, is it that hard installing a garbage disposal?
Yeah, that's. Did we talk about this one last week? If we did, we'll
We
talk about it.
might have, but we don't have the same number of listeners, so just move
So
forward.
installing a garbage disposer, yeah, it's a relatively simple thing, but it's one of those. It's kind of like a toilet. It's one of those seemingly easy things to install, but I've had quite a few callbacks on them. Um, Getting the basket strainer, the thing that actually sits on the flange that sits in the sink, to seat properly can be a little bit of a trick because most of them come with a snap ring. Um, and then they can be a little hard when you're underneath the sink and trying to hold the flange down. There's some contortion. If you're doing it by yourself, it's really hard. If you've got a helper, it's a lot easier. And then putting the disposer up and getting it locked into the said flange is it's acrobatic. I mean, it's another contortionist kind of jobs because you're underneath your sink on your back, and the lip of the cabinet you usually is right in your lower back, and you're having to hold your rear end up off the ground with your legs and try to manipulate this 20-pound device or 10-pound device up while you're still trying to click it on. I've had them drop on my chest. It hurts. I've had them drop on my face. That really hurts. So it's one of those things where, if you got help, you can do it. But man, it is a pain in the rear end. So I would probably just hire somebody to do that one. At this point in my life, too, at 56, I'll be 57 this year. Yeah, I'd probably hire somebody to do it. Yeah. Well, for me, it's a training moment for one of my apprentices, so it's a little different. So
That's true.
I
You have a
know how to
crew.
do it. Yeah,
You have a crew of people. Okay.
yeah. If
Um,
you're tight of money, give it a shot. And there's you can use a car jack to help lift it.
yeah.
You can use blocks of woods and boxes or books to kind
You're
of
a
lift.
teenager.
If you've got a teenager, dude, take advantage of them. Yeah, if you got somebody younger in the house, take advantage of them because it's not technically difficult. It's just physically hard.
Mm. Okay. So here's a topic that you've actually done
Wait,
videos
one more
on.
thing.
And oh,
One more thing I forgot to mention. If a dishwasher is attached to it, make sure you knock the the plug out because not everybody has a dishwasher. So there's a plug inside the drain, and if you don't you don't see it, you actually have to take a flashlight and look through the tube, and you take a hammer and a screwdriver and knock that sucker out. If you don't do that, you're going to have your dishwasher's not going to work, or it's going to flood your deck because you got an air gap on the deck of the sink. Anyway, that was it. Okay,
that's unfortunate. Okay. Your favorite topic, because you're good at this, and I've seen you do a video for it. Flushing a water heater.
yeah. So flushing a water heater, especially if you've got well water, you really want to be flushing your water heater on an annual basis, unless you've got a water softener. But most of our well water up in our Nevada County and Placer County is a little hard. We're talking about 3 to 10 grains of hardness. What happens when you heat water? It excites the molecules and it drops out all the liquid rock, all the calcium and magnesium that was picked up on the way as the water drifts through the strata of the earth, and it picks up little bits, molecules of rock as it goes down, and then we pump it up. So when we heat it, we excite it, and all that stuff drops out. It forms this really nice little blanket on the bottom of your water heater and insulates the water from the heat. So you really want to flush that sucker out. We have situations like this all the time up here where the water heater will literally be 10 to 20 pounds heavier. Sometimes we found them half full of sediment, where we got to have to get 3 guys to get this water heater out because it was so full of sediment. They're not efficient. So you want to be flushing this thing on a yearly basis. It is one of those things that, yes, a homeowner can definitely do it. And it's a lot easier than you think. They make it. Some people make it a lot more complicated because they'll say you want to drain your water heater. Never drain your water heater unless you're replacing it. If you drain the water heater, and forget to turn the electricity off or forget to turn the gas off, you could literally destroy your water heater and potentially have to replace it or have to replace components in it. So I always recommend just hook the hose up, turn the water on, put a bucket underneath for the first little bit so you can see the sediment that you're actually flushing. It's nice to kind of, it's not necessary, but at least it lets you know that, yeah, I'm doing something good, or wow, this really wasn't necessary. And as you flush it, water is going to continue to flow into the water heater and break up that sediment because there's a drip tube that goes all the way down to the bottom of the water heater to get our cold water to the bottom of the water heater because hot water rises, so it stratifies inside the water heater. So there's this dip tube, and so it literally breaks a lot of the crud up on the bottom. So let that sucker run for a little bit, and then turn the water off, put your hose away. But we do have a special for $49 where, if you want to do it yourself and save yourself $49, you can do that. But if you want to have a professional come in and have us do it, a couple of the benefits of having us come in and do it is we've installed hundreds of water heaters. Each technician has installed, dozens, if not hundreds of water heaters. We know what to look for in terms of safety. So we make sure that the water heater is not spewing any carbon monoxide. We make sure the gas isn't leaking. We make sure the gas was installed correctly. We make sure it was installed at the right size. We make sure the flue was installed properly and at the right size. And then make sure the pipes are insulated. So we'll make sure everything's working the way it's supposed to. So that's one thing that we can offer for $49 that, a DIY, you're not, if you haven't done it a couple hundred times, how would you know? Right. So, yes, you can do it yourself, but for $49, if you got an extra 50 sitting around, hire us to do it. Why wouldn't you?
Good point. All right, let's transition into electrical. Although most of these I can already hear, I'm screaming, hire a pro, hire a pro. Would you, okay, let's go to add electrical outlets. That seems obvious to me, but you might have a different opinion.
Yeah, hire somebody. I would never recommend a DIY adding an electrical component.
Right?
Are you using the right size wire? B, are you overloading the circuit? C, are you using the push and the push in fittings on the back of the electrical outlet? We've seen so many. We've seen fires. We've seen things getting brown and black because of these things. If you just don't do it. Don't do it. Just hire a professional electrician to do it. There's just too much risk. You can burn your house down. Know what you're doing.
Okay, but what about something that feels simple, like switches and dimmers? Would you say that the average DIY person could do that?
Not the average, but the higher level could do those.
Fair.
Switches and outlets, it can be a little. If you got a 3-way switch, those are a pain in the behind. If you don't know what you're doing, GFCIs can be a pain in the behind if you don't know what you're doing between the line load kind of situation. The other thing we see is a lot of DIYers will literally use those stab connectors, the push-in ones, and those are you're just asking for problems. What you want to do is you want to take the wire and wrap it around the screw and screw the screw down. There you have a really good mechanical and a good contact, not just a small piece of metal contacting the wire. You actually have the wires completely contacting the element. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I can visualize it actually. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but again, like that's one of those things where, again, it's, high level, I would be more closer to a 9 or 10 level DIY person. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. What if you have a power outage at your house? Like troubleshooting that would be something that you're going to want to do, right? So if you have a power outage, what would you investigate at your house first?
So depending on if we're talking about, if it's a system-wide power outage, more than likely it's PG&E. It's rare that your main breaker is going to trip. In my history of being an electrician and owning multiple homes, I've never reset a main breaker. It's 100 amps or 200 amps. You got to have some major issues to make that thing trip. If it's a circuit, if you've got a bank of outlets or some lights are out or something like that, yeah, that's an easy diagnostic. Go to your breaker box and start flipping switches. Hopefully the box has been labeled so you can go and see what, outlets in bathroom, outlets in living room, lights in first floor, those sort of things. So that you can, go back to your box and actually just trip that one. The weird thing about circuit breakers, though, not a lot of people know, is it'll look like it's set because it's just a minor movement in the breaker to trip it. It doesn't look like it's off. And then people try to turn it back on and they think they turn it back on, but you literally have to turn that thing off and then back on. You have to throw it all the way off and then pull it back. So it's one of those things that is weird. And if you need more information, just pull up YouTube and say, punch in resetting how to reset breaker. And there's a lot of great videos out on the web for that.
And we do, I don't think we have to go much further with electrical. We do a special rate for electrical as well.
Yeah. So, well, I'll just say one more thing before I go into the special. The other thing I forgot to mention was GFCIs. We've mentioned this before in many of the shows, but you could have a ground fault interrupt circuit outlet, and they are installed in any wet area. So if you've got a bank of outlets in your kitchen, bank of outlets in your garage, a bank of outlets in your bathroom that are out, more than likely it's a GFCI, because what we'll do is we'll put one GFCI in and run we'll daisy chain from that said GFCI all the way around the room. And a lot of times it's just literally resetting your GFCI. I've even seen people run the lights through it, which you're not supposed to, but I've seen lights go out because of GFCIs. So, and then a GFCI, I've mentioned this before, but it can be buried. It can be behind the box of Cheerios in the pantry. So if you've got outlets that are out in any wet area, try to find the GFCI first before you call us, because none of us like to go out to a call and have to charge you a diagnostic fee to reset a breaker or reset a GFCI. It's something you can take care of yourself. And then, so we've got a $49 special where we come out and inspect your electrical system. So we're going to make sure that everything is installed correctly and make sure everything's working the way it's supposed to and safely. Something that most people don't realize is electrical components wear out. Switches and outlets really have a life expectancy of about 20 years. Light fixtures, the same thing. But you'll see houses that have been around since the turn of the century and have the original wiring and everything. It works, but I've also seen houses burned down because of electrical issues. So, it doesn't hurt to have somebody come out for $49 and do a thorough inspection of your electrical system to make sure that it is actually safe. And, if you've got some kind of spotty things in your house, like, some areas that are inconsistently having issues, say you need us for a $49 checkup and we'll come out and do everything and see if we can find that problem. Those can be a real pain if you don't know what you're doing to try to find. Wow, that's our show.
So where are we gonna be this weekend, Andrew?
Right. So if you have any questions, we're going to be at the Cal Expo Home Show. I don't know if that's a real word, but it's the real name. But it's in Cal Expo in Sacramento, Friday through Sunday. We're going to have technicians there, so you'll be able to talk to some of our technicians. Come on by. We've got prizes. We have giveaways. Come on by and say hi. So this Friday through Sunday at the Cal Expo. Also, just a reminder about our specials: $49 water heater flush, $49 electrical inspection, $49 HVAC safety inspection and tune-up, and then also a $97 drain cleaning special where we'll clear any residential drain with an accessible cleanout for $97. You can reach us at 530-230-9092, 530-230-9092, and find us on the web at abtplumbing.com. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you next week. Bye.